Shahraban was born in April 1999 in Iraq during a difficult time due to political conflicts and violence. Her family was part of the Yazidi minority, an ethno-religious group that suffered severe persecution in Iraq and still faces challenges in some parts of the Middle East. When Shahraban was just 7 years old, her parents decided it was time to leave everything behind and seek a better life in another country. At that time, Iraq was occupied by American troops, and internal conflicts were frequent in the country. They moved to Germany, specifically to Ingolstadt, an industrial city near Munich. It was far from easy for the family to leave a war-torn country with almost nothing and start from scratch on another continent. After settling in Ingolstadt, the family faced a new challenge. They had to adapt to a new culture, a new language, a new world. It is said that for Shahraban, this was even more difficult, as her parents were quite traditional. They valued the family's reputation above all else, with strict rules regarding behavior, marriage, and other aspects of life. But Shahraban, even as a child, showed that she was not one to follow rules. She had a strong personality and considered herself very determined. Her dream was to work in beauty, become a professional makeup artist, or perhaps even a famous model. According to sources, the Yazidi community in Germany faces integration challenges. Many young people are torn between traditional values and the freedom of Western culture. This creates family tensions that can shape rebellious and extreme behaviors. Shahraban was obsessed with makeup. She spent hours watching YouTube tutorials, following beauty bloggers on Instagram, and dreamed of having her own beauty studio one day. But while she dreamed of this modern, glamorous world, her family wanted her to follow a more traditional path. They planned a completely different future for her. They wanted her to attend college or get married early. And this is where things began to get complicated, because Shahraban did not want a life like that. She wanted to be the center of attention, and according to friends, sometimes even manipulated people to get what she wanted. According to some close friends, she loved being noticed, and if someone opposed her, she would get angry and even create drama to appear as the victim. It was as if she always needed to be in control. By the age of 15, Shahraban was already very rebellious. She would go out at night without saying where she was going, argue with her parents, and defy all the rules. We know that teenagers are often rebellious, especially in a strict family, but Shahraban crossed the line. She had a way of dramatizing everything, turning small situations into major problems. And this was a small sign of what was to come. Now let's move to the year 2014. Shahraban was 15 years old when she met a young man named Ruwan, a 17-year-old Iraqi who was also an immigrant. They say they fell in love instantly, a teenage love. But since their families were very conservative, they decided to keep the relationship a secret. They couldn't tell anyone, knowing that if their families found out, there would be trouble. So they stayed together in secret, exchanging messages and only showing affection in places they considered safe. However, this secret didn't last forever. One day, Shahraban's uncle happened to be on the same subway as her and Ruwan without them noticing. At one point, the couple started kissing, and her uncle saw everything. He became furious and began scolding them, especially Ruwan. But instead of telling Shahraban's parents, he started blackmailing her. He said she would have to do whatever he wanted. Otherwise, he would reveal everything to her parents and expose the relationship to the Yazidi community in Ingolstadt. It's not exactly clear what he demanded, but it's known that this put Shahraban under a great deal of stress. She lived for months under this threat until, exhausted, she decided to make the relationship public. And as you can imagine, the reaction of both families was far from positive. In traditional communities like the Yazidi, relationships outside the family's knowledge and control are seen as a challenge to authority. Her uncle's blackmail shows how much Shahraban feared her parents discovering the relationship, despite her rebellious nature. Once the families found out about the relationship, both Shahraban's and Ruwan's families were clear. They were completely against it. To them, the couple was too young, their relationship wasn't serious, and it could bring shame to both sides. Despite the opposition, Shahraban and Ruwan didn't give up. They defied everyone, and at 18 in 2017, decided to get married. The young couple saw everything as a fairy tale. Soon after the wedding, they moved in together. Ruwan opened a hair salon, and Shahraban began working as a beautician in the same place. She was finally living her dream of working in beauty. At first, the marriage went very well. Shahraban loved her work. doing makeup, facials, laser hair removal, and more. Ruan was also very happy with the salon, but less than a year after getting married, their relationship began to deteriorate. Sharaban was extremely jealous and constantly accused Ruan of cheating. She had violent outbursts, shouting and causing scenes. One of the strangest incidents was when she stormed into a bakery next to the salon and threw sweets at Ruan in front of customers and staff. Everyone there was shocked, not understanding what was happening. Some neighbors of the salon reported that Sharaban and Ruan's fights were so frequent that clients avoided the place on certain days. People close to the couple said working with Sharaban was challenging. She was great with clients, but with Ruan, she seemed to want to control everything. The arguments were embarrassing, and people just pretended nothing was happening. Their relationship became a cycle of intense fights and brief reconciliations. In 2020, during the global health crisis, they were forced to stay locked together due to lockdowns. Surprisingly, this brought a brief period of peace between them. However, when the restrictions ended, things got worse. Sharaban, now 21, gained financial independence and bought a black Mercedes. This car would become a key element in the story. With it, she began going out without giving explanations, disappearing for entire nights. Ruan was lost and didn't know how to handle his wife's behavior. With the Mercedes, Sharaban gained a freedom she had never experienced before. She went out, attended parties, met other men, and gave her husband no explanation whatsoever. Among these men, one in particular became an obsession, a young man named Jacob. Sharaban bombarded him with messages, dozens a day, sometimes within just a few hours. She was completely obsessed. Then came the bombshell. She discovered she was pregnant, and the child was not Ruan's. When Ruan found out Sharaban was carrying another man's child, he lost control. The argument between them quickly turned into a battle. Instead of trying to talk and explain herself, Sharaban attacked him. She smashed his head against a mirror and then tried to run him over with the Mercedes. To make matters worse, Ruan's brother got involved. He threatened Sharaban, saying that if she didn't terminate the pregnancy, she would face all the consequences from the Yazidi community. Under immense pressure and fear, Sharaban gave in and did not continue the pregnancy. But this only fueled her anger. Sharaban displayed traits of a narcissistic personality. She could not accept being challenged or rejected. The loss of the baby only intensified her desire for control and revenge. Her rage fully erupted when she decided to get back at her brother-in-law. In a fit of fury, she broke into his house with a taser and shocked him multiple times in the neck, shouting that he deserved it. She was out of control. This was the breaking point for Ruan. He then requested a restraining order and filed for divorce. Ruan was exhausted. He had endured years of physical and emotional abuse and had never retaliated. For him, the restraining order was the only way to protect himself. After the divorce, Sharaban felt lost. Her parents, who had already opposed the marriage, were now furious over the divorce because in their culture it brought shame to the family. She tried to return to her parents' home but couldn't stay for long. As a result, she began living in hotels and sometimes even slept in her car. It was at this point that she started down a dark path, getting involved with dangerous people and criminal activities. Without Ruan and without her family, Sharaban began frequenting dangerous circles. She got involved in fraud, drug trafficking, document forgery, and other criminal activities. Reports say she stole from stores, sold fake COVID-19 test certificates, and even had indecent images of minors on her phone, though details are vague. According to sources, the police found evidence that Sharaban sold fake COVID-19 certificates for up to 200 euros, a common scheme in Germany during the pandemic. She was sinking into the criminal world, and there seemed to be no turning back. People close to her said she was intelligent but extremely impulsive. She considered herself smarter than everyone else but didn't think about the consequences. While sinking deeper into the criminal world, Sharaban maintained a facade on social media. On Instagram and TikTok, she presented herself as a beauty influencer, showcasing outfits, makeup, and tutorials. But behind this perfect image, she was plotting something far darker. On August 16, 2022, Sharaban, who was living with her parents, told them she was going to meet her ex-husband Ruan to sort out some matters, promising she would be back that night. When night fell, Sharaban still hadn't returned. By 10 p.m., then 11 p.m., she still hadn't come home. Her parents tried calling her, but she didn't answer. They also sent numerous messages, but none were replied to. Extremely worried, they decided to go out and look for their daughter. On a residential street near Rouen Salon, they found her vehicle. Looking through the window, they saw a female body covered in blood inside the car. Desperate, her father tried to break the glass with a vase but couldn't. They then called the police. When the officers arrived, they confirmed the victim was dead. At that moment, Sharaban's parents' world collapsed. Authorities cordoned off the area, and a forensic team arrived at the scene. Later, the body was taken for an autopsy. The body was completely disfigured, and it was determined that the victim had suffered 56 blows from a sharp-edged object, possibly a knife. Authorities believed that whoever committed the crime was driven by intense anger toward the young woman. Initially, there was speculation that Sharaban might have been a victim of forced sexual activity. She was dressed, but the police theorized that the attacker could have dressed her again or ordered her to dress before killing her. This hypothesis arose because the body was dressed in a disordered manner, as if it had been hastily or carelessly arranged. The police found something unusual about the situation. However, after examinations, it was confirmed that the young woman had not been a victim of forced sexual activity, and the hypothesis was dismissed. Since the body was completely disfigured, authorities had to request a DNA test to officially confirm that it was Sharaban. Her parents provided genetic material for the tests. Meanwhile, the police intensified the investigation to find out who committed the crime. They interviewed numerous people, from Sharaban's family and close friends to residents of the neighborhood and areas near where her vehicle was found with the body. The first suspect interrogated by the police was Rouen, Sharaban's ex-husband. Before leaving home, she had told her parents she was going to his house to resolve some matters. Due to the couple's history of arguments, the police believed that things could have gotten out of control and that Rouen, in a fit of rage, might have committed the crime. To them, the completely disfigured face indicated a clear attempt to utterly destroy Sharaban's image and what she represented. This type of attack is common when the perpetrator not only wants to take the victim's life, but also aims to ruin their image. The 56 stab wounds in the disfigured face suggested that the crime was motivated by something personal, and Rouen, in some way, seemed to have reasons for this. When speaking with Rouen, the police noticed that he appeared genuinely surprised upon learning what had happened to Sharaban. Not only that, he also seemed somewhat shaken. This was not the reaction the police expected. Either Rouen was a great actor, or he had nothing to do with the crime. And shortly after, the police discovered the truth. Rouen was innocent. Surveillance cameras recorded him while he was working at his salon and when he returned home. The timestamps of the footage matched the estimated time of the crime, according to forensic experts. Additionally, witnesses close to Rouen confirmed they were with him at the estimated time of the crime. Rouen's brother, Sharaban's ex-brother-in-law, was also interrogated and investigated by the police. The police considered that he might have had motives to commit the crime, given past conflicts with Sharaban. However, like Rouen, his brother also had a solid alibi and was quickly ruled out as a suspect. Sharaban's lover, the man she became pregnant by while still with Rouen, was also investigated and ruled out as a suspect. During the investigation, the police discovered that Sharaban had been involved in criminal activities for some time. The police then pursued another line of inquiry, considering that Sharaban might have been targeted by someone powerful in the criminal world. The motives could have been varied, and although the crime had signs of being personal, it could also have been intended as a warning to anyone who made the same mistakes as Sharaban. Investigators quickly began compiling a list of people connected to Sharaban and the criminal underworld. They knew that from that point on, locating these individuals and extracting information would not be easy, as all were involved in criminal activities and unlikely to cooperate. The police understood that the investigation would likely stretch over months. It would be a meticulous and exhausting effort, consuming 100% of the entire police team's time. However, while the police were tracking the next people to be interrogated, something completely unexpected happened, something that shocked everyone. After DNA analysis of the body found in Sharaban's Mercedes, it was determined that the victim was not Sharaban. That's right, the disfigured woman everyone thought was Sharaban was actually someone else. But how did that body end up in Sharaban's car? And why was it wearing her clothes? Most importantly, if it wasn't Sharaban, Who was the young woman found disfigured, and where was Sharaban? All these questions will be answered next. First, let's start with the most important, whose body it was. Further analysis of the body and a quick investigation led authorities to the victim's true identity. It was a young woman named Khadija. Khadija was born in Algeria and was 23 years old, the same age as Sharaban at the time. She and Sharaban shared several physical traits, such as skin tone, height, and build. This understandably led people to believe the body belonged to Sharaban, including her family, due to the strong resemblance. Khadija's life was far from easy. After her parents separated, she moved to Germany with her father but never saw her mother again. At 14, she was taken from her father's custody due to suspected domestic violence and placed in a children's shelter. At the shelter, Khadija found a new family, other children in similar situations whom she came to see as sisters. But her life continued to be difficult. She had an abusive boyfriend, lost a baby, and suffered harassment. Even with all this, those who knew Khadija said she was a cheerful, lively person, and like Sharaban, she dreamed of becoming a beauty influencer. She posted tutorials on TikTok and Instagram, trying to build a career. A friend of hers said in an interview that Khadija was amazing, had been through so much, yet never lost her smile. She loved makeup, enjoyed helping her friends, and always said she would be famous one day. In August 2022, Khadija received a message that made her very happy. It seemed her dream was finally coming true. An Instagram profile, claiming to be someone from the beauty industry, offered her the chance to star in a music video for a famous singer named Loon. Loon, whose real name is Mailan Ghafouri, is the daughter of Kurdish immigrants from Iraq, who arrived in Germany in 1995 as war refugees. Yes, a story similar to Sharaban's, and this is no coincidence, as you will see later. Loon is famous in Germany and has a solid fan base in the country. Khadija was ecstatic about the message, but having gone through so much, decided to verify it. She sent a message to Loon on Instagram, asking if the offer she received was genuine. Amazingly, Loon replied, "It's a scam, don't fall for it." At that moment, we can say Loon saved Khadija's life, at least for the time being. Sometime later, another profile contacted her and offered a free laser hair removal treatment, supposedly worth 2,600 euros, in exchange for a social media post. The person behind the profile provided the address of Ruan's salon, Sharaban's ex-husband, saying the procedure would be done there. As she had done before, Khadija decided to check whether this offer was real. She did a quick online search and confirmed that the salon indeed existed. However, according to sources, she did not call the salon directly to verify. The salon was over 124 miles away, as Khadija lived in Heilbronn, and the salon was located in Ingolstadt. This almost made Khadija give up on going there. However, the person behind the profile told her not to worry, as two people would pick her up and safely take her back home at no cost. Dreaming of a career as an influencer, Khadija ended up agreeing. Little did she know she was walking into a deadly trap. During the investigation, authorities accessed Khadija's social media and were able to identify who was behind the profiles that had contacted her with fake offers. The person behind it all was none other than Sharaban. The police discovered that Sharaban had created multiple fake social media profiles to find women who resembled her. She wanted someone around her age, between 22 and 23, about 5 feet 3 inches to 5 feet 7 inches tall, with brown eyes and no tattoos. Her targets were beauty influencers, as they were easy to lure with promises of collaborations and opportunities. She contacted at least 20 women, using scams like "come star in a music video" or "get a free beauty treatment." All of this was to find the perfect victim. According to sources, scams like this are common on social media. Aspiring influencers are easy targets because they are desperate for exposure, and Sharaban knew exactly how to use that to her advantage. At this point, Sharaban, who had previously been seen as a victim, became the main suspect in the crime. The police issued a search alert for her, and her face began appearing in newspapers across the country. Many people were confused as they believed Sharaban was dead, especially her family and those close to her. Sharaban's family felt a mix of relief, confusion, and shame. Like everyone else, they thought she was dead, but now she was seen as the main suspect in the crime, which for them brought even more shame to the family. With Sharaban's face appearing in all the newspapers, Authorities believed that if she was still in Germany, she would be found sooner or later. There was a strong possibility she had fled to another country, but this would only be confirmed as the investigation progressed. Sometime later, people began calling the authorities, claiming to have seen Sharaban. They provided information about what she was wearing and where they had seen her. All sightings were in Germany, indicating she had not left the country. Later, a pizzeria owner called the police, reporting that Sharaban had come by his establishment and asked to borrow a phone. The police quickly went to the location and were able to arrest Sharaban near the pizzeria. The owner told the officers that he had recognized her from TV news. He wasn't sure, but decided to inform the police just in case. Sharaban was wearing Khadijah's clothes and carrying her bag. During the interrogation, police discovered that Sharaban had an accomplice in the crime. This accomplice was identified as Shakir, a 23-year-old man at the time and Sharaban's new boyfriend. He was arrested shortly afterward. Shakir was described as an aggressive man with a drug addiction. He had a criminal record, but only for minor offenses, nothing as severe as taking someone's life. With the arrests of Sharaban and Shakir, the police were able to reconstruct a chronological order of events leading to Khadijah's death. On August 16, 2022, Sharaban told her parents she was going to meet her ex-husband, Ruan. She said she needed to resolve some matters with him and would be back that evening. But the truth is, Sharaban never went to meet Ruan. She met with Shakir, and together they drove over 124 miles to Heilbronn, where Khadijah lived. When they arrived, Khadijah was excited and, unsuspecting, got into the car. She believed she was going to a beauty salon for a treatment that could boost her career. But during the drive, Sharaban stopped the car on an isolated road near a forest and said she was lost. She asked Khadijah to step out and check a sign, and that's when things took a turn for the worse. As soon as Khadijah got out, Shakir attacked her from behind with a brass knuckle, knocking her down instantly. Then he grabbed a sharp weapon and struck her 56 times. Most of the blows were to the face, leaving her unrecognizable. The plan was to make everyone believe the victim was Sharaban. After the crime, they placed Khadijah's body in the back seat of the Mercedes and drove to a street near Ruan's house. They abandoned the car there, knowing Sharaban's parents would find it. According to the police, the motive for the crime was that Sharaban wanted revenge against Ruan, her ex-husband, and wanted to escape her family once and for all. To achieve this, she came up with a plan that seemed straight out of a movie: fake her own death using the body of an innocent person who unfortunately resembled her. Sharaban underestimated the police. She thought she was clever enough to fool everyone. But she didn't expect the authorities to perform a DNA test on the victim, which quickly led to her capture. Sharaban and Shakir's trial began in January 2024 at the Ingolstadt Regional Court and lasted nearly a year, 11 months to be exact. By that time, the case had made headlines in all German newspapers and become widely discussed across the country. During the trial, new revelations came to light. In prison, Sharaban fought with other inmates, and Shakir tried to hire a hitman to eliminate 13 witnesses. He offered money to a cellmate to hire an acquaintance, but fortunately the plan was uncovered thanks to an informant. Ruan, who had spent a few months in hiding for fear of being attacked, came forward to testify. He detailed everything about the abusive relationship with Sharaban, the fights, the violence, and her manipulative side. Another key witness was Volkan, a man Sharaban had tried to hire to kill her brother-in-law before the crime. He took 5,000 euros from her, disappeared, and later appeared at the trial to reveal everything. Ironically, he was ultimately convicted of fraud and sentenced to 1 year of probation. During the trial, a bizarre theory emerged suggesting the crime might be linked to a love ritual. The police found papers in Sharaban's car with notes about spells, but this was dismissed due to lack of evidence. In the end, the motive was simpler: revenge against Ruan and the desire to escape her family. What truly shocked everyone was Sharaban's coldness. She planned everything just to frame her ex-husband and disappear, and Khadijah paid the price. No information was found regarding Khadijah's funeral. The only record is that her father attended the trial, while her family in Algeria remained completely uninformed about what had happened. They only learned of Khadijah's death 10 days after the authorities were able to identify her, and only found out about the sentencing of those responsible 3 weeks later. Khadijah's sister, identified as Alem Boujama, said in an interview that everything was very difficult because they knew nothing and no one provided accurate information. German authorities explained that the language barrier and a complex family dynamic may have contributed to this communication failure. On December 19, 2024, Sharaban and Shakir were sentenced to life imprisonment. As mentioned earlier, the case gained widespread attention across Germany and became known as the doppelganger murder. Currently, Sharaban and Shakir are serving their sentences in prisons in the Ingolstadt region.